Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook podcast out of NRL Supercoach Round 22, proudly brought to you by Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams, and it is a big week of Supercoach action because it is the penultimate week before head-to-head finals start. In fact, for some leagues out there, depending on what your settings have done, you might even have your finals starting this week. But for the majority, it's round 23 to round 26. All that being said, people fighting for top fours, top eights, all these sorts of things, they'll be decided this week. Here to chat through it with me, not as always, he hasn't been on for a while, Maxy Bryden. How are you?
G'day, Timo, man. I'm doing well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Geez, you've come in with some swagger today, mate. For a bloke with one trade in the bank, I've never seen a bloke more confident. And that includes the spy who got up to about 100th or whatever he was. That includes you, mate.
Wow, that's a big talk because he was very cocky when he sat on here on the panel in 180th. But
what's happened to him, mate?
Well, that's true. That's true. But we've got different teams, we've got different players, and we're going to have different outcomes this year as well. I'm pretty confident with how things are going.
Really exciting today, Maxy. A good week to have you on. I mean, the winter chills in Sydney. There, people are dropping like flies sickness-wise, but we have got you on today despite battling illness of your own yesterday, but you've come in. Your and I Supercoach seasons are set up in such an interesting spot. You have one trade left after this week. I have 8, and I'll use 2 this week, will give me 6. Both got good depth, but you've got me by a pretty good gap. So I'm sitting here crossing the fingers for more injuries and you're crossing the fingers for not. Keen to see how it plays out.
Yeah, that's it. It's a really good test of 2 different methods. I know I spoke about at the start of this season, particularly in pre-season, that last year sort of stumbled upon an approach for NRL that was really similar to the approach I've done in BBL for the last few years, which is really focusing on building that team value, building that depth, and there's an obvious thing that a lot of people do, which is try to get to that end team as soon as possible, but it's been made possible by really prioritising cash. Yes, using a few more trades than usual, but the team's come along really nicely and the rank's pretty good this year, so I'm pretty happy.
I reckon I've got you, mate.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the gap?
A lot.
We should have worked that out.
What are you ranked?
I'm ranked 206 at the moment, so it's pretty good. Get a nosebleed with this kind of elevation.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you don't need to get any more elevation, mate. You're tall enough as it is. How'd you score last week?
13.44, so pretty close. And you did me, and I did all that.
All?
Is that all?
That all you got last week?
Wow, okay. All right, this is what it's going to be like. No, I'm up for it, mate. This is good. I thought it wasn't too bad, particularly just with the Nico captain, which was a very, very last-minute panic from me after the discovery that Nathan Cleary was likely to kick with about 30 seconds to go with that lockout on Saturday night. I was absolute panic stations in the Bryden household. But it cost me a few points. I was going to go on Dylan Edwards, but mate, my pods came through. I've had Hudson Young for a while now. I picked him up in about round 16 or 17, and my man Dane Gagai came through with another really big score of 92. Meant I could bench Mark, who most people had to play. So yeah, it was a good week. It wasn't a great week, but it was a good week. Yeah,
very solid, mate. I was 13.48, so needed a few green arrows after a few down weeks. I jumped 460 spots into 2100th overall. So ticking along nicely. Thought I had a Scotty Drinkwater VC loophole locked in at half time. He was on 90 at half time.
Me too.
He finished full time on 93 points. Put on about 3 points in the second half against the Dragons. Could not believe it. Anyway, went with Dylan Edwards. Scored solidly enough. So, yeah, a good week, but I'll need injuries, obviously, to catch up. But we'll see.
We'll see.
They're tumbling. Also with us today, another bloke who's gotten off his deathbed to be here, carrying the show as always. Matty the Waterboy, how are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm better than I was yesterday and a few days before that. I had a diabolical week, not just in sickness, but in Supercoach.
All round.
Oh, it was horrendous. It was just 3 terrible decisions right after another. Same boat as you. Thought I was locked and loaded with Scotty Drinkwater vice captaincy. Then at full time when he was on 95, whatever it was, I was like, I don't know, because my captain was Nico, and I was going to have to drop out Karapani, and I thought Karapani was going to get a big score against the Eels. Now, he didn't, obviously, but if I dropped Karapani, I would have brought in Herbie or something, and then,
Ronaldo, you would have brought in Ronaldo.
Sorry, Ronaldo. It was, so I lost points there, and then what happened? And then Nico Hines got 50. So I just had a diabolical week. It was I got 1173, and it's just ruined the back end of my season.
It's been a tough week for you, Matty. So look, mate, there's time. Not a lot of it, but there's a bit of time. So, and you do have trades in bank, unlike most.
Yes, after this week I'll have 3. So, it's not heaps, but
It's more than a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than me, mate.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Well, it just depends. There's just been so many weird injuries in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, yeah, let's hope there's not many of them to finish the year.
Let them flow. Nothing major, just little things, and ideally not to my players for a change. Guys, on today's show, Team List Tuesday, Supercoach pointers. Ryan Pappenhausen returns. Tyron Wishart, he replaces the injured Jahrome Hughes for now, but watch this space. The topic for the show, we're just going to have a very brief chat about our trade scenarios being very different, how we're both approaching. Maxy and I are back ends to the season and what Maxy's doing with that final couple of trades in the bank. More of a topic to the show that will extend a little bit. Maxy, you do it all. You're a head-to-head specialist. You're a draft specialist. I feel like this year you've become an overall specialist because you're coming 200. So we are going to tie into a little bit the head-to-head leading into finals, though. A few tidbits, a few key bits of information and talking points that you'll have to help head-to-head finalists coming up. Maxy, hot topics for the show is Tommy Dearden, the best run-home 5'8" play. We'll drop our round 22 trade, sit v start and skipper plans. Wrap it up with a few listener questions. Looking at Casey McLean, is he potentially a pod option for the run home? A lot going on in the Supercoach world, Maxy. It's been a busy week. I can imagine what's going on over at headquarters there, but Supercoach Finals, a new format incoming, NRL Supercoach Finals, that will be happening this season, which is exciting. Obviously, nothing to do with the current season. It all starts afresh. We'll be extending our season to cover that with all the same content, podcasting goodness, including our subscriber offerings. On top of that, we'll be rolling out across the finals and throughout October our interviews with Supercoach Guns, a series of podcasts getting insights from the best players in the game to both subscribers and general listeners of the SC Playbook platform. You can, of course, subscribe to SC Playbook for less than $2 a week, a third of the price of your daily cup of coffee. Access that via the subscription package via the menu at scplaybook.com.au. And another one, Maxy, all happening. English Premier League Fantasy also announced to start this season, just starting in about 2.5 weeks. So as I said, we've been in overdrive a little bit in the last week, but stay tuned for an announcement around that and SC Playbook. Wallaby Watch, Aussie Lock, Nick Frost. He's into 10th overall and only 200 points off first.
How good. Frosty, keep going, mate. 200,
very achievable. So
very achievable, mate, particularly if you pick up a little pod like Dane Gagai as well.
He's on the bye, mate. Gone. Our unlimited league leader, Baby Dale's coached by Matty. He leads the charge, but he's been knocked off top spot in the overall race. So he's second overall, leading our pack, though. Currently have the 2nd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 10th, but we want number 1 overall. The Wombat, coached by Dylan, he topped the week with 1,596 points. Team List Tuesday, Maxy. Jahrome Hughes and Trent Loiero are out for the Storm. Tyron Wishart starts. Jonah Pezzett to the bench. Cam Munster returns from personal leave. Well, this is relevant because whilst there aren't a lot of people probably with halfback spots as such, but certainly maybe like a backup 5'8" spot, and whoever gets that out of, Tyron Wishart's the main one, like his dual position, half 5'8" at a good price, he becomes very relevant, I think, in that backup 5'8" slot if he does indeed play there. I'm still a little bit sceptical. It wouldn't shock me to see Bellamy go with a more game-managing number 7 in Jonah Pezzett because I just don't really see how Wishart, who is an out-and-out ball-running 5'8" with Cam Munster, who's the same, really work. Maybe they lean into Harry Grant, but a bit to play out there.
Bit to play out. Ran the numbers earlier today and saw that Wishart is averaging 66 without Jahrome Hughes in the team. So certainly like the scoring and the pedigree's there. I have a bit of a sneaking suspicion that the inclusion of Pezzett might be as much to do with the Loiero absence as it is to do with anything else, just because Wishart's got that ability to go in and play lock.
Yeah.
So later in the game, without Loiero there, we could see Wishy move into that number 13 and Pezzett come onto the field. So I'd definitely give it a week and just see how it's going to play out. But Wishy's shaping as a really interesting pod for the run home.
Yeah, he is. And you'd love to own him. It's a tough run for the Storm and a lot of night games, as we've touched on, but very good.
They're really scared of the dark, aren't they?
They are scared of the dark, yeah. But as we know, a very good Supercoach scorer. And the other one is, if Pezzett did come in, you'd probably be a bit less keen on Pezzett. But, mate, he's also dual 5'8" halfback at 276K. again, you can probably wait a week and have a look at Pez and see what he produces because he's got a break even of 74. But he's another one there, mate, where I think he'd be an okay backup option to play if needed, but just frees up a lot of cash and you get a starting halves.
Yeah, he's sort of going to be about that 55 averaging guy, you'd think, which for his price is pretty viable. But again, you just want to know whoever's going to get the 80-minute role there.
Wishy's 316k, so look, I went down the Tanner Boyd route as my backup 5'8" to Jaden Campbell a few weeks back, so I'm not looking to move, say, a Tanner Boyd onto Wishy. But yeah, if you've got something and you're trying to free up cash at your backup 5'8" slot, I don't mind a little play there. At the Warriors, a few key outs: Chanel Harris to Vita, James Fisher-Harris and Wade Egan. Tamari Martin comes into the halves. The Dolphins, they welcome back a host of players, including Cody Nikorima at 5'8". Not a lot of Supercoach relevance to them, though. At the Broncos, or when I say that, around the changes, at the Broncos, there is Supercoach relevance here. Josiah Karapani and Jesse Arthur's dropped. Cobbo and Mariner come in. It's a weird one for Karapani owners, Maxy, and there's a lot out there, myself included. In theory, it's a big one because he has a good matchup this week against the Bunnies up at Suncorp, but mate, he's just fallen flat in that left edge. They've hit a bit of a wall. So I think Karapani was a sell in coming weeks anyway. That's made the decision for us.
Yeah, he probably hasn't quite made the cash that people were projecting at the start when he was averaging about 90 coming out of the blocks. But looks like an easy move, particularly when there's a couple of guys sideways like a Ronnie Mulatalo with a nice draw upcoming that you could get, which would be pretty handy.
An easy move for those with trades. And as you said, like a little move to Ronnie, whoever
I feel like you're going to say that a lot this show, those with trades. Is that aimed at me?
Absolutely it is, yeah. As in, you were very smug pre-show, so I'll be rubbing every bit of that in, especially knowing that I'm like 2,000 spots behind you, so I've got to get something out of it. But, you know, honestly, like for people low on trades, and this isn't a dig at you because you're not a Karapani owner, but he's a bloke that you go, look, I'd like to sell, but at the same time, on the wing at the Broncos, if he sat there as your 6th or 7th CT dub for the run home, at least it's a number, but now he's gone.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's what he was for a lot of people. He was sort of that number 6, number 7. If he was any higher than that in your CTW list, then you probably made a few mistakes along the way. So yeah, look, not an urgent trade out, as you said, but I think if there's guys, and there's a fair few cheaper guys at CTW still lurking around there, like your Ramians, your Mulatalos and stuff like that. If you're desperate for a player and some depth there, then yeah, you can move him pretty sideways pretty easily, I reckon.
Yeah. Ryan Gray has been again named at hookup for the Bunnies, but Peter Mamazelos, he's on the extended bench. He might even be 18th man there. Brandon Smith, he's due back in a week or so I wouldn't be caught into that trap of Ryan Gray, who made some absurd amount of tackles, about 63 or 64 tackles last week, but don't get sucked into that one. Jaden Sewer is out for the Dragons. Commiserations to anyone who brought in Sewer. There was a little bit of a pod back rower last week, so he's gone, and long term, right, Maxy?
Yeah, he's gone for about 6 weeks. Yeah. And just a quick shout out to his replacement, Michael Molo, front row forward eligible and a very handy pickup in draft leagues as well. Hopefully waking up with him tomorrow morning in my team via waivers.
Keep an eye out for that one. Jump on board. At the Raiders, Sebastian Chris returns at centre from a head knock. Simi Sasangi, the best utility in the NRL, moves to the bench. This is significant, I think, Maxy, for Zach Hosking, who I just think he probably plays a 60 to 65 minute role now because I think Ricky's fallen in love, like all Raiders fans, with Simi Sasangi this year with how good he's been. Hudson Young is an 80-minute edge back rower, and we know that Zach Hosking spends time in the middle when Sasangi comes onto the edge, but I just think it probably doesn't mean that Hosking is an 80-minute player moving forward whilst all these guys are fit. There's also Matty Nicholson lurking as well from return. Look, it's not panic stations for Hosking at the moment, but I do think it impacts sit-B starts with him if you have a really strong team because he couldn't sit at that 60 to 65 minutes. I suppose the only other one is if the Raiders do get out to a decent lead around Hudson Young, because he has this osteitis pubis, the groin injury lingering, does he get early spells? Yeah, it's just one to watch.
Certainly one to watch. I would say, though, that Hosking's really proven in the last few weeks that he's a guy that even in limited minutes can just score well because he can find attack.
Yeah.
Like he's got a great offload. He's got a really good partnership with Jamal Fogarty as well. He can get over the try line. So even when he's not playing 80, he can still score really big. So I think he just more becomes a matchup play rather than a weekly play. Prior
to this just plethora of injuries in the back row, he was a bloke I had pegged in now as a sell at peak price. But again, as another thing that we'll probably mention a few times on this show, if you've got a warm body who's no injury concerns. They're playing big minutes, whatever it might be, especially in a decent side. You probably just hold them with the way the injuries are going.
Hold them tight, give them cuddles, make sure they're nice and healthy and warm and loved.
Exactly right. Hamole Olakauatu injured for the Manly Ringa Seagulls, so another one in the back row there for people who brought him in last week. Ola is gone for the rest of the season. Billy Smith returns at centre for the Roosters. Hugo Savala returns at 5'8". Sandon Smith gone with concussion there as well. Connor Tracy gone for 3 weeks with an injury. Absolutely exploded of late. Connor Tracy, my boy, it was a rocky start. I did not own him for his 130 last week. Of course I didn't. But he's done some good things, Connor, but he's gone for 3 weeks. Mate, big Supercoach implications because Jacob Kiraz moves to fullback and Jethro Rinakama back in on the wing. A good little number there for the Stallions. Not that he'll be playing anytime soon, but Kiraz at fullback's the interesting one, mate. What are your thoughts?
Played 1 game there last year, and I know that because I VC'd him because I got all up and excited when that was announced. And he only scored 52. So I think it's great when he gets runs, but I almost prefer when he's got the second run and there's a few more blokes behind him for him to offload to. We saw on the weekend he had 7 offloads or something ridiculous like that. So it's good, but the other thing is, like, I think his probably try involvements are going to get a little bit less because he's such a potent finisher on the wing. I think he's just going to have to wait and see. I'm
with you, mate. Like, your initial thought is Kiraz fullback,
VC option.
Lock VCC sort of thing. But the bloke already has 25 plus runs on the wing where he gets his offloads and tackle busts. So it's not like, when like a Roger Tuivasa-Sheck or someone or a Joey Manu used to go to fullback where they'd go from, Manu used to go from 10 runs at centre to 28 runs at fullback, and with that came offloads and tackle busts. Kiraz does that on the wing, and he's playing outside Stephen Crichton, where, as you said, attacking opportunities come all the time anyway. So I don't know if it'll matter that much, but all in all, I think it's got to be a good thing, right?
Oh, it can't be a bad thing.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And at the Cronulla Sharks, Britton Nickera and CSC for Talakai, they return for their matchup. Now, Maxy, just a little one to chat about for people that are in similar situations to us. I think we cover sort of both. Unless you're a mad trade hoarder like Kat Haddad and you're 10 plus trades and you're in double digits, you got 2 trades left going into this round. I've got 8. We both have quite good depth. A couple of players there that are non-active or injured, whatever it might be. But how are you looking to use your final 2 trades?
I think that from a while out, probably from around sort of 15, 14 or so, I was able to really identify the guys that I wanted in my final team at each position and start to plot paths towards them. So with a view towards that, and also knowing that stuff changes every single week in Supercoach, and the moment you write it down, it's basically irrelevant. I've made sure that I've had a few trades to play with, a few trades to have a little bit of fun, but I've always kept the trades that I needed to make sure that I've got enough in the bank. So the final 2 trades for me are very sacred, and they're only going to be used break in case of emergency. And there's been so many times in the last couple of weeks, I know, where I've probably texted you at about 5:55 on a Friday night, or just saying like, mate, I really want to do this. Just please tell me to calm down and throw my phone in the lake. And you've said that, and I've listened, which has been good, because the worst thing that could happen to me with my team right now would be losing a key expensive positional player that I can't replace. As it stands in my team, I've got 2 trades left, but I've only got effectively 3 nuffs. I've got Kalani going, who I bought deliberately because he gives me flexibility with a guy like Connor Watson, that if I can trade out a second rower to bring in a hooker, or vice versa.
So you got Watson and Kaylani at hooker?
Yep.
Yeah.
In my other spine positions, I've got Jahrome Hughes and Nico Hines. I've got Jaden Campbell and like in King Togia. King Togia's going all right. Like, he's not sort of the worst.
In terms of a backup 5, wait, King Togia, he's your backup at 5'8".
Yeah, backup 5'8".
If you got 2 gun 5'8", good luck to you. But there's a lot out there running with a gun starting 5'8" who you just play every week. You probably sit your reserve. If you've got a warm body, it'll do a job for the back end.
Yeah, that's it. And I've got Kane Bradley and Tukey Simpkins. Now, Bradley's not really useful for me at the moment because I've got him at second row, so I can't really use his dual to sort of swing up and down. But if I did make a trade in CTW, I could. But apart from that, at the moment, the way my team's set up, I've got enough duals and flexibility where I can use a guy like Aaron Clark as depth between front row and second row. And I'm really going to only use my final 2 trades when emergency happens and when injuries happen. So one of them we use this week to get rid of Jahrome Hughes, but the other one's just going to sit there until I really need it.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have some fun in the final 2 weeks if it's still there and I haven't hit chaos yet. But for the most part, I've sort of worked myself into a point where the team's the team and I'm very happy with the team, but I can't do anything. So every single week it's pretty boring when all you've really got to do is choose your sit starts instead of just looking at the new shiny toys that you want to own.
It's boring, but at least it helps you sleep at night where you're like, I can't trade, so...
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and that's the other way to look at it. It's like sometimes having less choice is better than having more choice. Because I can tell you what, right now, if I had more trades, I mean, I've still got Keon Kolomitangi in there, front row forward, and I've got the ability to bring him down between front row and second row. I'd be desperately clawing through to find some kind of super pod who's going to shoot me up the rankings. But the fact I can't is probably better for my sanity and my sleep.
I'll turn this into a therapy session, mate, and we'll get deep into it. You'll have one trade left after this week. If you nuffs in there, you're soaring in 200th overall. Your depth is good, your quality is good. As you said, you're in a very fortunate position where not only are you ranked well, but you've sort of got everyone that you want. So like you sort of mentioned to me pre-show that with that final trade, even if you wanted to use it, there's no one really that you sit there and go, I need this bloke, or I need this bloke. What have we got? 6 rounds to go, one trade left. Are you nervous or are you pretty confident that you get there without too much damage?
There's no point being nervous because beyond the things that from anything that's going to happen now is beyond my control.
Yeah.
Like I've worked myself into this. I've got 7 active CTWs. I've got 5 active second rowers. I've got 3 active front rowers. My depth is my depth.
Yeah.
My trades are my trades. I can't control the injuries. So I'm not really nervous, no. I'm pretty confident that the guys I can put up are going to do a job because I've got everyone that I need. I've got May Haas, I've got Hudson Young, I've got Dane Gagai as a pod. I think that I'm doing okay, and depth to just cover up a lot of cracks. And I've been very deliberate in the last couple of seasons in building not just a deep squad, but making sure that depth is real quality as well to get me through situations like this.
And that's the thing, Maxy, I've always said, like, I'm one for banking a few trades for the back end, but there's no knock on going harder on trades and just trying to put yourself in the best position to hang on for the run home because, a year like last year that worked for people. But if you're doing it, just take the depth approach. Burn trades, but give yourselves backups if shit hits the fan at the back end of the season, which you've done.
Yeah. And I think there's always little things, right? Like little choices that you have to make along the way. Like for me, a guy like Zach Lomax, I brought him in round 13. Which was a time when most people were saying, I want him, but I'm not going to touch him because of state of origin. But I took a deliberate risk along that lines. And for the last few weeks, when everyone's been saying, when am I going to grab this guy? When am I going to grab this guy? Look, I've already got him. So while your people are out there spending trades, I've already spent that one in the bank and I'm able to enjoy and reap the benefits of it.
Yeah.
So this approach from the beginning to prioritise building the team value and building the cash and getting the guns and just collecting them as quickly as possible. Again, picking up a guy like Hudson Young in round 17 from Tino, who I sold for like 700K.
Yeah.
Just little moves that are now paying off dividends. So even though it looks shaky, it's been very deliberate design to build the guns, and now they're doing their job for me. And for me, like one of the things that's been really interesting for the last couple of years has just been my progress throughout the buy period. So 2 years ago in the buy period, I went from 18,000 overall to 3,000 overall because of the depth of my squad and the being able to put out guns in the mini buys. So every single mini buy I was jumping like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 spots because my team was really good. I wasn't rolling out your Billy Smiths and your Morgan Smithies, these plotters. It was like just guns. And this year it was the same. Like throughout the buy period, I think I went from about 3,000 into the top 1,000 and have collectively gone up because every single week when people are, putting up subpar players, my guys are quality.
Buy around plotters. They've been a staple of this podcast for a couple of years.
Well, they've been a staple of the Stallions for a little while. I know. I think
not this year. Last year they were a staple of the Stallions.
Yeah, well, you did learn your lesson, I think, this year pretty well. But for me, it was like I got rid of so many of those guys really quickly and probably a lot quicker than other people, just so I could build those gaps up to the big boys, and they've served me well so far. Yeah.
Now, looking the goods at Maxy, so, I mean, I'd love to say I hope that there aren't injuries and you hang on, but it just works exactly against what I need to happen first this season. I have 8 trades left going into this round and about 79K in the bank. Look, one of my trades will be Jahrome Hughes to Nathan Cleary. That one just picks itself. And I waited for the world's longest lockout to end on Monday. I drove bloody from Coomber to Sydney and back to Coomber and then back to Sydney and waiting for it to end. Eventually opened up about 2 o'clock on Monday. And all I wanted to see was, can I do Jahrome Hughes to Nathan Cleary in one hit? And I was like $1,000 off it. So I do need to make 2 trades to facilitate that, but that's fine because there are a few people I'm eyeing off in coming weeks. And 8 trades in bank, could be 6 after this week. And I'm happy to use another 2 next week. I'm still not a Herbie Farnworth owner.
Ooh.
I need to see what happens around Payne Haas. He's been planning to come to my team for a couple of weeks, but injuries have made me have to focus on other issues. Looking a little bit injured and not at his best, Payne Haas, so I'm happy to watch him this week with the big break even, but still with a plan probably to get him either next week or the week after for sure. I reckon I'll use 4 trades in the next 2 weeks. That'll leave me with 4 for the final, what will be 4 or so rounds. Probably have to use another 2 not long after that, pending sort of how things play out, and then just have, much like yourself, a couple for the final weeks for breaking case of emergency or to have a bit of fun with and go some pods, that sort of thing. So, not bad. Yeah,
I like that approach. But everything you've just described is the difference between you and I, in the sense that you're still dealing with other issues and building cash so that you can afford the likes of Haas and Herbie, whereas I've got those guys. So you're trying to catch me, but I'm like, you're going to be either buying players that I already own, and you won't have them in 2 weeks that I've got them. So I'm already getting to enjoy them. So it's funny because as it stands, the only way that you will be able to catch me is if the proverbial poo continues to hit the fan.
I reckon you're living in a dreamland because...
But you said that last year.
Well, no, but this year we've already had a ton of injuries and there's 6 rounds to go. Last year there was nothing. There was also no restings last year.
True. But the restings aren't looking that hot this year, right? Like
Connor Watson goes down this week.
Mm-hmm.
You use your last trade to get a hooker in.
I wouldn't. I'd just be running the world's greatest AE of all time with free loops.
So you're running an AE for the last 5 rounds of the season. Your 5'8" goes down. You've got to play Lycan King Tonga for the run home.
I should mention that after my final trade, I'll still have 177 grand in the bank. So if I did need to trade a Jaden Campbell or anything like that, then the options are fine.
Jaden Campbell doesn't go down injured much, so it'll be sweet.
Well, then it'll just be welcoming most likely a Tommy Dearden or someone in the squad. You know that I've been talking to you about that for about 6 weeks.
I reckon there's a lot more to play out in this Maxy than your confidence suggests.
No, but there is. Absolutely there is. But again, I can only play what's in front of me. I do agree that history will tell you that cautious approach is good, but by the same stretch, making moves to catch me by copying guys that I've already got in my team.
Well, I'm not playing Supercoach to catch you, obviously. I've got other things to worry about. What have BetBuzz got us at, mate? What's the head-to-head in your eyes?
I don't know. It's probably about $1.50 if I'm honest.
Yeah.
So it's pretty even. Maybe $1.80 each way. But again, it's because there's factors beyond our control. If no one got injured from this point forward, then you wouldn't catch me.
No, God no.
But that's the
people will though.
Well, that's the game. That's the game we've got to play. As it stands, I'm pretty confident that the guys that I'm sitting are still like the good players. So
as it stands, I've got you at $1.50 and me at $2.40.
Okay.
You're a warm favourite, but there's a bit to play out.
Yeah, mate, it's going to be very interesting to see how it all washes out. And as usual, take the lessons from this year and just continue to try to get better next season.
And, I mean, Herbie's due a down week. He's been due for one for about 18 months, so it could be this week.
Yeah, true. That's what Desi Creek and you are still banging that drum.
Yeah, the down week will come soon. Mate, the next topic for this one, head-to-head tidbits. As I said, for the majority of leagues that head-to-head finals will start next week, round 23 to 26. As we always say, check your head-to-head league settings. But, mate, just a few bits and bobs that you wanted to mention. As we said, on our website, we've got head-to-head finals fixture strength that you've done up across all finals formats, a ripping yarn on the homepage there. You know, you've spoken about players, all different sort of things, but, mate, I'll let you take the floor. Yeah,
thanks, Timo. And, mate, this is a beautiful time of year, a nerve-wracking time of year when, for serious head-to-head coaches, the spreadsheets are coming out. The uniques are starting to be counted, and people will be glued to their phones right up until lockout to wait for those sneaky moves that people are going to make coming through with those late trade-ins and late skipper changes and stuff like that. This is glorious Supercoach, and I absolutely love it. And look, the latest article we put up on the website was actually going through and identifying the best skippers for each round of head-to-head, both the popular guys and also pod options as well, because we know that aside from the unique players in your teams, the only thing that really separates head-to-head battles battles are who your skippers and vice captains are. So if you're after some preparation ahead of your matchups, just some points of interest, just to spark some creativity and some thoughts, have a look at that, because there was some really interesting results as to who the most skippered players are most likely to be in those weeks, and some pods who are showing up pretty consistently as well. But the thing I just wanted to talk about tonight, Tim, was just the CTWs, and because for years, people have always looked at the CTWs as the way to have that point of difference in their head-to-head matchups and help decide the outcomes. And that's because, as we know and as we spoke about on last week's pod, matchups matter. And when you have good matchups of CTWs, we can see often a 20 to 30% uplift in their scoring, right? More tries, more line breaks, more points, more victories in your head-to-heads. But the trend that's happened in the NRL in the last few years, with so many CTWs copying that Penrith, Bryden, Topo method of more runs out the back, more offload and power stats, has meant that basically, as it stands, there's not really many CTWs who you want to bring in on matchups, or nowhere near as many as there were in previous years. The current top 4 CTWs in Herbie, Zach Lomax, Ruben Garrick, and Jacob Kiraz, they are the CTWs. And going against these guys is almost a non-option for head-to-head players. They're all absolutely frightening. You keep saying Herbie's due a down week, but a down week for him is still at 60, which is a good week for most other CTWs. Yeah. And even Jacob Kiraz, we saw him on the weekend, just getting that arm free 7 times. What was that? Up to 28 points or something in offloads? Went 130. These are the guys who can absolutely bury you. So while we often talk about different pods that you can take on in CTW, when it comes to the 4 big boys, my strong recommendation for all head-to-head players is you just want to own those guys and nullify the potential harm that they can do to your team if your opposing coach has them and you don't.
Jacob Kiraz on the weekend, 137 points, 2 tries, 10 tackle breaks, 7 offloads, 24 runs. And you're right, mate, it has changed with the work rates of these powerful... athletes are getting bigger, faster, stronger, fitter year on year, and these blokes are typifying it. And you're right, 3, 4, 5 years ago, it used to be Brian Toto, would you say, was almost like the first one of them?
Yeah, there was some real, like Brian Toto's the prototype.
He used to be the man, and now people have caught up.
There was a bit of Josh Mansour back in the day.
Yeah, Josh Mansour was a good one. But there were so many players around CT Dub that you wanted trades around this time to target those matchups. And another one that probably ties into your point of feeling relatively comfortable, Maxy, is you don't need to worry about making those moves because you've got the 4 you need, and they're not going to change barring injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's once you've got those 4, and by all means, and there's a few questions on this later in the pod as well, and I'm sure you'll touch on it in beers and break-evens. It's like, once you've got these 4, then you can add supplementary pieces around that who might have good matchups. But even having said that, there's other options emerging in CTW who are turning into these guys overnight, just like a Dane guy goal kicking, moving to fullback, and all that kind of stuff. But that was a key point I wanted to make today about head-to-head matchup, is that people will often ask the question as to what are the CTWs to get to push you ahead in your league. Look, you got to start with those 4 and build around them for sure.
That's it. You can play around them, and there will be blokes emerge. All of a sudden they've got a gun 2 to 3 weeks with huge upsides, roll chains, whatever it might be. But yeah, it has changed a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, couple of stats. You're done?
I'm done.
Well done, mate. A couple of little stats I wanted to touch on. There are a lot of questions asked around the impact of Jahrome Hughes at the Melbourne Storm. So what I did was I went through in my article today on the SC Playbook website the impact that no Jahrome Hughes has had on Ellie Katoa, Harry Grant and Cameron Munster, who I think are the 3 main ones this year. You touched on Tyron Wishart before. Hasn't missed a lot of games in recent years, actually surprised me, Jahrome Hughes. I thought there'd been a few more, but he's only missed 1 game this season. That was the Dragons, which was in torrential rain. So we'll put a line through that one and ignore it. In the last 2 years, I've looked at it. So we'll start with Eliesa Katoa. 2024 season average was 73 points. Without Jahrome Hughes in 3 games, he actually averaged 86.
Incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'll preface all this by saying, because Hughes hasn't missed that much, it's a pretty small sample size, but I definitely expected that to be lower. 2023, he averaged 64 points with Jahrome Hughes. In the 2 games without him, he averaged 70.5. So again, substantially bigger. Harry Grant, 2024, he averaged 71 points. Without Hughes, he averaged 74 in 3 games. In 2023, Harry Grant averaged 73 points. Without Jahrome Hughes that year, 61. So a bit of again, far smaller. Cameron Munster, he averaged 62 points last season, but without Jahrome Hughes, a 76-point average, so it went up quite a bit, again, only in 3 games. And in 2023, Munster averaged 71 points, without Jahrome Hughes, 66 points. So basically what I've got from that, mate, is that statistically speaking, from a pretty small sample size, don't read too much into it. The Eli Katoa one was very interesting, but this is the one, I think, Maxy, where eye test comes into it, and I just say, if I know anything about rugby league, and I probably don't, Eli Katoa, I just think, despite those numbers, will be disadvantaged. Without Jahrome Hughes in the team, their combination is unbelievable. He's just not going to have that same combination with Wishart, or I assume they'll keep Munster on the same side, Wishart, Pezzett, whatever it is. Harry Grant, maybe not a massive difference, but I just think Harry Grant plays a bigger role in attack, especially if they go with Tyrone Wishart and they've got 2 basically ball-running 5'8". That would suggest to me that Harry Grant plays a bigger role in attack and getting this side around the park. And Cameron Munster's the other one. He's just going to get more attacking ball without Jahrome Hughes. 100% he is. So, look, I think Grant and Munster go up, and I think Eli Katoa goes down. That's the rugby league you'll be talking. The stats say a little bit different. How do you feel? Anything?
I think the Eli Katoa point's probably the most one to make, because I know that there were a lot of people probably sitting there on Monday morning with a button hovering over the big T to potentially get rid of him. But I do think he is a hold with those numbers, and I agree when I looked into them today, they were very surprising. Grant, again, people will point to the weekend and say that that's evidence that he's going to begin to take over an attack. But those stats, again, were equally as surprising, just to sort of say, well, there isn't actually an impact for him. And potentially what you've got to remember in that match is that when Grant was on the field without Hughes, there was no Munster, there was no Pappenhausen.
Yes.
He was the one player out there of their big 4. So absolutely everything fell to him on his shoulders. Straight away this weekend, he's getting 2 of them back in not just Munster, but Pappy. So, look, Grant's a good option for the run home. He's definitely a top 2 hooker alongside Blake Brayley. But is he a must-have this week? Is he a better pickup than other gun 2RFs? I don't know. Maybe the stats say like he's worth a look at, but not necessarily a guy worth breaking your team for. And Munster, look, Munster's Munster. We know that in tough games he goes hard and he goes big. Yeah. We know in easy games he takes a back seat and chills out. But like, yeah, there's probably value in having a look at him if you wanted to muck around at 5'8" with a trade. Yeah.
Guys and girls, the end of the financial year has well and truly passed. It means you need to get your finances sorted. For any of the tradie listeners we've got out there, in particular, the end of financial year, it's the time to look at asset financing for some new tools and equipment, maybe even a new truck. You might even be looking to get into your first home or refinance your current home loan to save some cash. Have a conversation with Paddy and his team at Mortgage Choice SCW can make a huge difference to getting you into your first house. Turn the dream into reality, get the conversation started to understand your position by reaching out to Paddy and his team. Start asking those questions to work out how you can do it. Normally, this would cost you $129, but mention SC Playbook when you reach out. It'll be completely free of charge. Flick the team a message on Instagram at mortgagechoice_SCW or give them a buzz on 02 9521 1611 wherever you're based in Australia. Paddy, a diehard Manly Warringah supporter, was out of that game on the weekend with some listeners from SC Playbook.
Yikes.
And, mate, it absolutely scarred the bloke. He was actually going to come on the show tonight and have a little bit of a chat, but he's jumped on a plane to New Zealand to get away from it after that.
I would too.
Yeah, so not a bad option, but we'll get Paddy back on at some stage soon once Manly get a win on the board. Maxy, hot topics for the show, and we'll rip through a couple of quick ones here. Number 1, Nathan Cleary. There's just no world where you don't have him, right? After the way he's returning, he's got the goal kicking back.
Halfback number 1, if you've got trades, you're using him to get him in.
Like, let's throw a hypothetical out there. I'm trying to find a way where you don't get him in. You've got Jahrome Hughes and you back up, and you got Jahrome Hughes and Nico Hines. You got one trade left. Are you turning Jahrome into him or not?
I think I would. And I know that the flex has opened up so many possibilities where you could use that final trade for any player in Supercoach. But there aren't that many players who are averaging over 80 this year. There aren't too many players who kick goals and have a good floor. There aren't too many players like Nathan Cleary, so I think he's worth it.
Number 2 is Harry Grant, who we did just speak about. Number 3, Tommy Dearden, your man. You were very quick to message me and rehash an old message from about a month ago about pod Tommy Dearden at 5'8". This was at half time in that game. He actually kicked on, basically doubled his score in that one.
I don't know why you hate him so much.
I don't hate Tom Dearden. I love Tom Dearden. I don't rate the Cowboys.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're a good team or not. They score Supercoach points.
Yeah, well, 665k, dual 5'8 halfback, 69 point average, 165 points on the weekend, a negative 15 break even. Maxy, you like him more than I do as a Supercoach prospect. I think he's good. I just like others better.
Okay, so Tommy Dearden, right? The two things that have happened this year when you look at his scoring. So one, there are games with and without Jackson Purdue in the halves. And two, there are games with or without the number 6 or the number 7 on his back. Now, since he's moved to the number 7, his scoring has been much more consistent as well. It seems to have increased his floor, and I haven't really checked to see if it's increased his touches. But basically, everyone goes, oh, Tom Dearden, he's got big ones in him. He's also got small ones in him. He's only gone under 60 once since picking up the halfback jersey. And yes, albeit that was a really dire 23 in a game against the Roosters where I assume they got absolutely smashed after backing up from Origin, which I'd need to check. But that kind of floor and consistency for Tommy Dearden has never been in his game until he put on the halfback jersey. Now, the other thing that happened was when we checked the stats, and we did this weeks and weeks ago when we were trying to figure out mostly about Scott Drinkwater and where his scoring was going after I purchased him for $914,000 and he proceeded to score 14 points for me, was that when he was in the halves with Jake Clifford or anyone not named Jackson Purdue, he was averaging nearly 70, which at the time would put him as the highest averaging 5'8" in the game, right alongside the likes of Jaden Campbell and Cameron Munster for best in position. I saw these stats and just figured, why is no one ever talking about this guy as an option at 5'8"? Now, the important thing that you'll hear in my voice is that I'm talking about him as 5'8", because I do think that if you don't own Nathan Cleary, Tommy Dearden, I'm not too sure if you would bring him in at your halfback position. But as far as a prospect for your 5'8" for the run home, he's absolutely viable. And I think he could be a real game changer in head-to-head finals. And I'll tell you what, the thing that I love most about Dearden is that not only does he have this ceiling, right, 165 on the weekend, he's already got a scores of 114 and 143 so far this year, is that he does these predictably in the matchups that you expect him to do it, right? You got a guy like KO Weeks and you look at his scoring and you go, yeah, he's got 3 tons, but you go, when's he going to score them? Because he might score 30 against the Tigers and then 110 against Melbourne Storm, which, again, check the stats. That's the facts. But look at Tommy Dearden's big scores. It was 143 against the Gold Coast Titans, which you would have been basically penciled him in for 100 plus. 114 against the Tigers at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. I mean, that was, as obvious as snow in Cooma in winter. And then 165 against the Dragons. Again, playing at home against the Dragons. Like, this guy is predictable. He is reliable when it comes to that ceiling. So if I was sitting there with money looking to make a trade, particularly at 5'8", for a pod on the run home with a draw of Sharks, Parramatta, Newcastle, Wests and Broncos, I would be prioritising a Tom Dearden buy. He's a freak. It's not going to be his final 100-plus score for the end of this season. You can take that to the bank.
Yeah, I'll counter that with a few things.
All right.
Firstly, the 3 games you mentioned, the matchups were as good as they get, all in Townsville. He's only got 2 of his last 5 games in Townsville.
But a lot of daytime games.
A lot of daytime games. Helps a lot. 2 of his last 5 in Townsville. Those games are against 2 of his tougher matchup in the Knights and the Broncos. Knights are give or take, but defensively they've been pretty resolute this season. Then the Broncos, again, Queensland derby, playing for a final spot. Put it this way, it's not the Titans or the Tigers. They have the bye in round 27 as well. The 2 softer matchups there are Parramatta in Sydney. Parramatta, who playing pretty good footy, to be fair. And then the Tigers at Leichhardt. So make of that what you will. A good matchup, though.
Yep.
This week, Sharkies likely in the wet at Shark Park. For what it's worth, I don't think he's a bad buy. And if this was a month ago, when he was, 600K or 550K, I would have liked it. But I just think with all the other injury carnage going on, I think Jaden Campbell for starters with a better draw, and I don't believe any buys to come for about 120 or 30K cheaper. I think Campbell's a better buy. There are some people who have emerged at 5'8" in recent weeks as potential buyers, Tommy Dearden being one of them. But I think if you own Campbell or Munster, whoever it is, you just run with whoever's your backup 5'8". I just wouldn't. It's not a place I'd look to make a move. So it's not as much a knock on Tommy Dearden as it is the current Supercoach setup with injuries everywhere, trades getting low, his draw to come. Not for me.
Yeah, look, he's a luxury buy.
He's a luxury buy.
That we can agree on.
Yeah.
And I take your point. You're not necessarily going to move a Campbell or a Munster to him because those guys are almost as likely to go as big as Tommy Dearden has. I will say Campbell's ton on the weekend was only his second for the weekend. This is Dearden's third. But if you're sitting there with a Lycan Kigtogia or someone at 5'8", maybe even like a KO Weeks, although KO Weeks has got a pretty soft draw. The thing that I just love about Dearden so much is the predictable big games. Like, this guy is a set.
But I don't think he has those on the run home, does he? Like, we're talking Townsville against soft opposition. I don't think he has those.
I think you would roll him out very confidently against Parramatta, Newcastle, and the West Tigers. I think you'd roll him out in those three. And even, again, as I mentioned, with that improved floor since moving to number 7, the fact I'm pretty sure Clifford's back this week as well.
Yep.
So he's back to his preferred left edge. He's going to have Nanai on his hip. He's got his good mate Purdue out in the centres. He's got Bryden Burns, who's Guro's Messiah. I think he's a good buy, but he's a circumstantial buy. Yeah.
To wrap it up, what's his 5-round average to finish the season?
5-round average to finish the season? I reckon 75, if not 80.
I'll go 65.
Okay. Put a case of bloke on it.
All right, done. Mate, number 9, Jamal Fogarty, 9th most traded in play, 634k, a 71-point average, 106 point on the weekend, a break even of 14. He's a lot like Dearden, and he's a lot like another one in, and we can tie someone else into this, mate, in Isaiah Katoa, who's the 15th most traded in. People that looking at moving on Jahrome Hughes that may already own Nathan Cleary. Isaiah Katoa, 670k with the 69-point average and an 86 break even. They don't scream as those big ceilings in a key position to me. But when you go through the numbers for the year, much like Tommy Dearden, their floor's really good. They're scoring consistently. They've got a ton in them. Look, not for me. I'd be prioritising elsewhere, even if I was already a Cleary owner and I owned Hughes. But what are your thoughts?
It's not a bad pod move. I mean, it was his second ton for the weekend for Big Jamal. He's got that goal-kicking floor, and what is there any other team in the NRL scoring as many points as the Raiders right now?
Soft run.
It's not a terrible shout. I think you'd only just be doing it to be different, though.
Yeah, that's it. Again, another one maybe a month ago, but I think the way I see it, Maxy, with Hughes down, I just think your halfbacks are Hines and Cleary. Don't overthink it. 3 fullbacks in flex.
Yeah. I think the other difficult thing for Fogarty is the bye.
Yeah.
So he's got that bye in 24 as well, which is just an extra week of point scoring you won't have. But he's certainly a very interesting pod. His draw's a lot softer than Nathan Cleary's. I'll give people that.
Mate, on the most sold list, look, this is pretty easy because they're all injured players, but I will just touch on one we've spoken a lot about of late. It's a bloke with a 3-round average of just 38 points, Mark Nwanganita-Waze, 577k, 69-point average, 115 break-even. I said last week that even with high break-even, with everything else going on, I'm just going to hold him, playing for soft matchups, sit for tough ones. I did sit him on the weekend, thankfully. He updated to 43 or 45 or so, but I think now he's had another big price drop. If you own him, just playing for the Roosters softer matchups. What do you think?
I think if you can turn him into any of those 4 big CTWs, then do it.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he's due a bounce back. I've sat him for the last 3, which has been great. It's probably been a big reason why I've moved up the ranks, to be fair, with that 3-round average of 37. But what was promising for me was just how they used Mark in probably the last 5 to 10 minutes of that game on the weekend. He took 1 run at centre. Toya pushed out to the wing. He made a half break, freed the arm for an offload, looked $1 million. And then even at the end of that game, when they were desperately chasing points, he was on the end of that controversial forward pass call against Tedesco, again after a half break and after a bunch of offloads. I think that something will have to change in the game plan for the Roosters, and they will have to get him more involved, because with a side that loves attacking football, he's got as much potential in that team as anyone to bring it out of nothing. So I reckon they'll probably set him down with this week, introduce him to Sam Walker for the first time, because it just doesn't seem like they've met, and then they'll figure out a way to get him more involved. So I'm backing the bounce back, and I'm going to play him this week.
I'm with you, mate. I think that Trent Robinson's way too good a coach. He's seen the lack of ball he's been getting with Sam Walker in the team. It'll change. I don't know how or when or where, but it has to. He's just wasted out there with what's going on at the moment. So, yeah, play on matchup. Guys, fantasy rugby league betting is here thanks to our mates over at BetBuzz. We've been working behind the scenes of late to get the fantasy markets up and running. It all started last weekend and bloody loved it. There'll be key stat areas such as points scored, try assists, line breaks. I made sure they included tackle breaks and offloads to get them in there so you can multi things together. the markets pin key players together in each position each week. So, for example, you have Reece Walsh v Scotty Drinkwater versus James Tedesco v Dylan Edwards. Odds for each of those players for that corresponding round, and you pick who you think will score the most points. They have it for every position in the game. They're taking the stats from NRL.com, so slightly different to the NRL Supercoach scoring. Note that one. I'm previewing them each and every week on the Halfback podcast, and it goes out as a post later on in the week. To check them out and follow our bets, head to the link in the show description or across our social channels later in the week. Find BetBuzz in the App Store. What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, call 1-800 858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. All right, Maxy, trade plans for round 22. What are you looking at?
Very simple for me. Jahrome Hughes to Nathan Cleary, and then I'm going to guard the final trade I have left after that with my life.
Yeah.
So, yeah, keeping it pretty tight. I haven't really looked too hard at anyone else not named Nathan Cleary at halfback.
Yeah.
I do think there are some interesting pods, but for me, he's the best player almost in all of Supercoach. He's a skipper option for a bunch of weeks in the run home. So, yeah, very easy move. What about yourself?
Your VC?
He'll be my C this week.
No, who's your VC though?
Oh, my VC this week will be Herbie Farnworth.
Herbie, yeah. Yep. For myself, I am going Jahrome Hughes to Nathan Cleary, a grand off doing that, so I need to free up money elsewhere. A few options, but at this stage, I'm looking at going Keon Klamatangi down to Isaiah Yeo, who he bounced back with an 83 on the weekend. He's dirt cheap at 5.45 for what he know he can do. He's reliable. He had 61 in base on the weekend, and again, another sit v start one there where gives me really good depth, frees up cash to do what I want. Look, if anyone emerges later in the week, I could potentially go cheaper, but I'm happy to do that and shore up the squad, and a very viable player in the 17 or 18 each week, but can go sit v start. Leaves me a bit of cash in the bank to sort of look towards a Herbie or a Payne Haas in coming weeks, but I will need to use another trade, especially if I'm getting up to Herbie Farnworth. VC, probably Harry Grant against the Eels. I would be surprised if I used it. And then skipper, I'm with you, mate. Don't overthink it. Nathan Cleary with the kicking duties against the Titans. A lot of wet weather as well in Sydney this weekend, so take note of that. Matty, the Waterboy, trade and skippers.
Yep, pretty easy for me this week. Hughes out, Cleary in. Have those three trades for the rest of the year that I will only use on injuries most likely. So Hughes to Cleary. Vice captain, Herbie Farnworth. Captain Cleary.
I hope Herbie gets 100.
Me too. I hope he gets 130.
You'd need 130 to loot.
I reckon so, yeah. I mean, the Titans, they're not very good defensively. And
It'd be brave to not have,
Yeah. I mean, we saw that a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? Before that Dylan Edwards one, Herbie just didn't quite go big enough, and then everyone jumped on Edwards with a C, which was really good. So, yeah, I want him to go well, but maybe not too well.
Herbie. Next week.
Mate, it's anything though. He's English, though. He'll probably want to shake hands at 3/4 time. Shout out to Reece for that zinger.
That's very good. Alrighty. A few listener questions to wrap it up. One from Jack Roberts. Casey McLean as a pod. Boys, your thoughts on Casey McLean as a pod to bring in? I know Penrith have some hard games after the next two rounds. Can he stay solid?
Man, I love Casey. Hey, he's had such a ridiculous season. He came in, he looked awful, but he was somehow averaging in the low 60s, scoring a try every week, mostly because he would refuse to pass to his winger. But ever since then, he's got a 6-round average of 70. And again, the bloke just can't stop scoring tries. Like that left centre spot at the Panthers has got to be one of the best in Supercoach. He's also discovered his hands and started finding his outside man and setting him up for tries as well. So he's a really interesting pod play. At the end of the day, he's a centre who, if he doesn't get attack, he's going to be scoring high 40s and 50s. But with a good matchup this week, I wouldn't be shocked if he went big. The tough run probably scares me a little bit, but at the end of the day, he's a super pod, so I don't mind it. At
630k, I think the ship sailed, mate. Again, I know hindsight's a great thing, but the time to do it, if you wanted to, was round 19. They went Para, Bunnies, Tigers. And before that, he had tough games against the Doggies and Warriors, scored well enough. Before that, he went 84 and 82 in softer matchups. Titans this week, fantastic matchup. Could easily ton if they get a lot of ball. But after that, Knights, Storm, Raiders, Dogs, Dragons round 27. If Penrith there's a chance Penrith will sort of sit in fifth there and don't budge. Players get rested. I think you've missed the boat on McLean. But yeah, we'll see how you go. One from Jay Schubert. trade numbers to the Brains Trust. Can you get to the end with no trades after this week? Worst players will be Stewart, Bradley, and Nuff is Kalani going. Maxy?
Why are you looking at me, mate? I've got one after this week. It's tough. I think you can, for sure. Yeah, if you've got depth, then you can do it. But if this question is more so with respect to, do I waste a trade on turning Jahrome Hughes into Nathan Cleary, then absolutely you do. Because if you're not using your last trade to get in a guy like Nathan Cleary, who's got claims to the best player in Supercoach, then you're not using that trade at all. So I think you can get to the end with no trades.
I don't think you can. I think you're screwed, to be honest. However, to your point, if you've got Jahrome Hughes sitting there, it probably means you've got no depth at halfback anyway. So
Nico's going to have a buy at some point.
Yeah, so look, if you're going Hughes to Cleary, I would do it, but I wouldn't be using it anywhere else.
Okay. Yep.
No way. Question from Sammy. Nickera v Hudson for the run home. Britton Nickera, he missed that. Well, I say he missed that game last weekend that looked like a great match against the Bunnies. They scored like 14 points or something, so it may not have actually been as good as we thought. But missed that one. He returns from a head knock this week. A good run home. He got his freshen up last week. Obviously a lot cheaper than Hudson Young. Who do you like?
I like Hudson. I love Nickera for the next few weeks, 22, 23, 24.
600K.
Yeah, he's got 3 absolute bangers. The Sharks have got the Cowboys, who can't defend, the Dragons, and then the Titans in a row, which is really good. And again, he could average 80 to 85 at that point, if not more. But Hudson's Hudson. We saw on the weekend, it was probably since everyone first started cottoning on to how good he was at Supercoach that he had a game like that. He downdated strangely from 90 to low 80s, which was a bit of a shame because the 90 just would have been that real exclamation mark.
I didn't see exactly.
I'm sure he lost an attacking
He did.
stat.
It was
try contribution. And
I think it might have been like Lions' try contribution on that try when Matty Timoko pulled, I think it was Savage down the wing. Because Hudson actually, and again, biased Hosking owner, but Hudson hit Hosking. Hosking absolutely put Matty Timoko away, who then drew and passed. I think it was the fullback.
Oh, yeah.
So like Timoko was the line break and obviously gets the try assist. And yeah, Hosking missed out on everything, but I think there were points removed from Hutto.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, look, I think the way that the Raiders are going, they're going to score more points than the Cronulla Sharks. Hudson's got the offload license, so he's just Supercoach porn right now. Like he's amazing. He's so good. So I think if I could afford him, I'd go up to Huddy. But they're both fantastic options.
Yeah, relatively similar players in that both to our
Hudson's floor is heaps better.
Yes,
like Hudson's floor at the moment is like almost 70 points just with his base and power.
Raw base and that, not the best for 2RF guns, but you add in the tackle breaks and the offloads and all that. And Hudson's just, he is the Raiders attacker. Everything is directed through Hudson Young, just hitting those short balls and everything he does. So I'm with you, mate. I think you find a bit extra cash and you go with Hudson Young despite the buy. Maxy, last one before we wrap it up and get you out of here. Harrison Meads, can we expect to see the Supercoach spy be added as an expert in Supercoach next year?
Jeez, wouldn't he love that? Yeah. Imagine how tall he'd be getting around with his face, his mug all over the app. Or do you think he'd go with the disguise? Would he
go the alias?
He could do. I do like that pic of him with the fake moustache and stuff. It's good gear.
He'd take a photo and send it to Sanctuary about 11:30 on a Saturday night after a couple of whiskeys. He'd probably have the lid off, and look, we'd all be losers in that sense. So
yeah, absolutely. So look, Harrison, I think if you want this, don't talk to us about it, mate. You've got to get onto Sangstar. He's the one you need to start to be hassling about that. But yeah, let's make it happen. Let's get the spy onto the game.
Get spy expert status. Start the campaign. Maxy, that'll do us for today's show, mate. As always, you've been huge.
Thanks, Timo, mate. So it's really nice, different being in here for a change with the better rank. Let's hope I got that same story to tell when the season ends. We need to get you on round 27 or maybe the season recap or the first week of the new Supercoach finals, and we can discuss how this has all ended up. Yeah, let's do it. Can't wait.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great week.